just decided to make a little ASMR content on Mountain Murders. Hey,
That was your beard rubbing the microphone.
that was my beard on the microphone.
Well, if we have some beard fetishists out there, Dylan,
Apparently, people are really into that
I might like it.
crinkly stuff and all that.
The crinkly stuff and all
Yeah.
that.
Hey, welcome to
You have such a vast vocabulary, Dylan.
welcome back to Mountain Murders midweek.
Eternally impressed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just trying to step our game up here.
Are you?
Yeah,
Well, welcome back. I'm Heather.
and I'm Dylan.
Okay.
I'm old crinkly over here.
Oh, crinkle face.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm great, Dylan. It's a beautiful sunny day. I've been enjoying my favorite watermelon popsicle.
Oh my God.
I'm like ready to talk about some true crime news.
Those real fruit popsicles are so good.
They're very good.
I just enjoyed a strawberry one.
You did.
Yes, it was delectable.
Delectable.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to take it up a notch.
Can't beat a delicious popsicle on a hot day.
Well, you can.
You know, we were outside earlier in the sun, very hot day here, loving it. And Dylan looks over and he says, "My God, you're so white."
I was looking at your little legs.
And I reminded him that a few years ago when we married, he would be like, "I love your beautiful milky white skin," right? And it goes from that to like, "You're fucking white." Like it's an insult.
I still like your milky white skin. I must make that clear.
I'm very fair skinned.
But I was just imagining us in a survival situation. I feel like you're going to get burned off the rib.
That's what you said.
And that's all that's going to hold us back. Because you're going to be like, oh, I'm burnt.
So I'm dead weight.
You're going to be like a lobster.
I'm going to be like a sunburned dead weight is what you're saying.
No, Lord, no. I would take care of you. I would find some mud or clay.
Well, you're acting like I wouldn't just roll around in some mud. You think I want a sunburn?
No.
Think if we're in a zombie apocalypse situation and I'm running for my damn life, that I want a sunburn?
You don't want to chafe or sunburn in that situation.
No, I don't.
Right.
No, so I will rub some various muddy ointments on my body. How's that?
Well, that's good to know that you're ready.
You're something else today.
Okay,
I'll tell
so
you
what have you found? What interesting news
Dylan,
items?
this has been kind of a wild week for true crime. There's been a lot over the past few days that has come to light. One of the things that has made the news, one of the stories making headlines this past week is 911 tapes have finally been released after 12 years in the case of a missing woman that led to finding 10 other bodies on Long Island. And I'm talking about the Long Island serial killer or the Gilgo Beach murders, which we covered a few months ago. We had an episode dedicated to this case. Shannon Gilbert, one of the victims, disappeared in 2010, and she made these hysterical 911 calls. They have never been released to the public, but now we can finally hear how she sounded. I mean, it's strange. At times she seems calm, confused. Other times she's scared. And as I described, almost hysterical, Dylan.
Yeah, they're chilling for the most part. And I would be curious as to why they waited this long to release the 911 tapes to the public.
Shannon Gilbert lived at the time in Jersey City. She was a sex worker on Craigslist when she vanished during the early morning hours of May 1st, 2010. Suffolk County Police, which has fought against releasing more than 21 minutes of 911 audio from Gilbert on the day of her disappearance, finally said Friday they were releasing the 911 calls linked to her disappearance because they would not compromise ongoing investigations.
Well, if anything, I would think maybe it would help in some way.
Suffolk Homicide Section Commanding Officer Kevin Byer said in a recorded video played during a press conference that Gilbert traveled from Manhattan to visit a client, Joseph Brewer. She was driven by her driver, a man named Michael Pack, who was also her security. She initially called from inside Brewer's home, which is in Oak Beach, before 5 a.m., and she tells the dispatcher multiple times, "There is somebody after me. Somebody's after me, please."
Yeah, she sounds, excuse me, she sounds very distraught, and she also says they're trying to kill me at some point, right?
Well, you can hear Brewer on the line saying, "Come on, let's go. We'll all go outside." And Gilbert is saying, "Please get me out of here, Mike." Gilbert then runs from the home screaming, and she runs into a man named Gus Coletti. He is heard saying, "Is somebody after you? Don't get yourself hurt. Where are you going?" And then he calls 911 and says there's a girl about 14 years old running around screaming.
Okay.
Gilbert then ran from Coletti's home to get help from another neighbor, Barbara Brennan, who also called 911. She reported that some woman is knocking at my door. She says she's in danger, but I'm not letting her in.
Well, I mean, I would be maybe concerned or worried about what was really happening. But see, what's always struck me as odd about this case is you had her driver who's right outside the door, I'm assuming either in the driveway or parked right there on the street of the house she is in. And I guess he claims that he can't get control of her either, right?
Right.
That she runs out, she's hysterical, she, runs away from him as well. So either he's telling the truth or there's something else going on here and he's lying, right?
Well, based on the evidence, the facts, and the totality of the circumstances, the prevailing opinion is that Shannon Gilbert's death, while tragic, was not a murder, but most likely an accident. An autopsy conducted by a private pathologist that was hired by Gilbert's family concluded there was insufficient evidence to determine her cause of death, but the pathologist's findings were consistent with homicide and strangulation. So you've got police saying, well, we don't think that she was killed. We think it was more of a tragic accident, perhaps. But then you have a pathologist saying, no, she died from strangulation.
Well, yeah. I mean, just saying tragic accident. I mean, I would want you to outline what you thought happened that makes you believe that. You know what I mean? I mean, do you think it was some kind of a drug cocktail that she ended up, dying of? Or do you think she fell and hurt herself? I mean, I just would like more information.
Yeah, they believe that perhaps she stumbled out into the brush, as we've talked about on the episode, about this case, that this area was like thick bramble and brush.
It is something it's very particular and unique type of landscape, and it's mushy or marshy underneath this thick brambly brush. I mean, they had to bring in all kinds of equipment and just an act of Congress to even search any of it.
Well, the police believe that Gilbert wandered into a brushy marshland where reeds can grow up to 12 feet high. He said one cannot tell where the highway is or where the bay is. Some of the brush is impenetrable. Gilbert's body was discovered north of a trench about 3/4 of a mile away from where she was last seen. Now, in the search for Gilbert, that led to the discovery of the remains of 10 other people, most of them sex workers like Gilbert. So I'm not sure how the police can determine that this was some sort of accident when you have neck injuries from an independent autopsy tech saying consistent with homicidal strangulation, injuries to her neck.
Right.
Then you find 10 other bodies, and you're still going to act like it was just some strange coincidence that a sex worker happened to be lost and died in an area where 10 other sex workers have been killed.
Well, that's the kicker for me.
mean, yeah.
I mean, that would be one hell of a coincidence if she did accidentally die and happened to be in an area where there's 10 more bodies, right?
Right.
I mean, that just doesn't really add up for me.
It doesn't, but we'll kind of follow this, see if any new leads are generated from this 911 call. Since we covered the case, I thought it was important to discuss the release of these 911 calls.
Man, I got a big old frog in my throat.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Nice. All right. Thanks a lot. Here's another story, Dylan, that was actually sent to us from one of our patrons.
Oh.
I saw the case on TikTok. This poor young lady, her name was Shelby Ratliff. She was 28 years old, went missing from a bar, I believe, in Arkansas, Fayetteville, Arkansas. And they found her body early Friday afternoon. She was reported missing on May the 5th. According to Sergeant Tony Murphy with the Fayetteville Police Department, around 1:30 p.m., Fayetteville firefighters located and recovered Ratliff's remains from the town Branch Creek. According to police, the initial investigation leads them to believe that this was a drowning incident directly related to severe weather last week.
Wow.
Very interesting. I will follow up on that. I did see a TikTok, one of her good friends begging, if you've seen her, if you know anything, please let us know. And then they found her body. So I'm not sure if they've ruled it to just be accidental or if they think she was possibly kidnapped, murdered. We're not sure yet. At least I'm not finding any information about that.
Speaking of kidnapping, I have an article here. A KFC employee helps thwart alleged kidnapping after woman passes note begging for help. An employee at a Tennessee KFC helped thwart a kidnapping after receiving a note from the victim. According to court records, Memphis police responded to a kidnapping call just after 5 p.m. on May 15th from a KFC in the Hickory Hill neighborhood. After an employee received the note from a woman, the employee was able to give authorities a description of both the woman and the man she was with, leading authorities to find them both. According to police, the suspect, identified as Diego Glay, 23, allegedly refused to obey the officer's commands and took off running before being apprehended. People also confirmed from online jail records that Glay, 23, is charged with kidnapping and evading arrest. He is in the custody of the Shelby County Sheriff's Office, held on a bond of $35,000, which seems kind of low to me. So this is the reason this piques my interest is, remember not long ago we talked about the young lady and they had the kind of creepy guy was talking to her at a Starbucks.
Yes.
And the employee kind of snuck her a message like, give me a signal if you need help. And I think this is amazing that people intervened and likely saved this woman from further harm, right?
No, it is absolutely amazing. It's nice to know we have people out there who are observant and who care about others.
Some people would blow that off like, this is like some kind of gag or, something like that. But I think it's good to take that type of thing serious, even if it is not serious, just in case.
Always, always. Just like we've heard time and time again, neighbors, I heard gunshots, I heard screaming. I didn't do anything about it.
Well, yeah.
When the neighbors could have easily phoned 911, made a report to police, and at least had it checked out. Because it's better to be safe than sorry.
Well, I was listening to a Dateline. I forget what case it was, but there was one neighbor that reportedly turned their TV up louder because of all the commotion they were hearing. I'm just like, that's kind of a weird thing to do. People are screaming and slamming around. It's one thing if you got a dysfunctional couple living next door and they're into fighting and, whatever. Nothing's going to help them out until one of them decides to change their ways. But if you hear something very strange or someone screaming for help, I would find it very hard to ignore that.
Yeah, I don't understand how people can just ignore those
turn my radio up.
Sounds like it's nothing.
Oh, my goodness.
Speaking of fast food restaurants.
Ooh, these segues today, bud.
2 Wendy's employees stabbed each other after a dispute at a North Carolina restaurant on Monday, according to police.
Okay.
Keeping it classy, North Kakalaki.
Yeah, you gotta love it. Was that in the eastern part?
Home sweet home. This was down in Asheboro.
Okay.
So yes, further east than us. Officers arrived at the Asheboro Wendy's just before 10:30 a.m. and found a 22-year-old suffering from a stab wound. He was taken to an area hospital for treatment. The extent of his injuries wasn't clear as of Monday afternoon, so has not been released yet. Police said the stabbing happened after the 22-year-old and a second coworker at the fast food restaurant got into a fight, but officials didn't specify what led up to the brawl.
Well, I'm telling you, down east, they will cut you.
One of the witnesses told responding officers that the suspect ran away from the restaurant after the stabbing. Another witness told police that the suspect was in a gold Toyota passenger car that drove away from the scene in a careless and reckless manner. The sheriff's office found the suspect's vehicle in Randleman, North Carolina, and arrested the suspect without incident. The suspect, authorities have not immediately identified, was also taken to the hospital with a stab wound.
Oh, so he was stabbed too.
Yeah, police informed the nearby Ashboro High School and South Ashboro Middle School state, school resource officers to issue like a temporary shelter in place order because these schools were in such close proximity and they were not sure if this person might go on a stabbing spree. I mean, they really didn't know what to do.
Well, or at the very least, drive recklessly through the school zone, right?
Exactly. So at least we're trying to keep the kids safe from this kind of thing. But yeah, what is it about these fast food workers stabbing each other?
I felt like that was going to be his girlfriend's car that he borrowed, the Toyota.
Think so?
Maybe.
I mean, possibly.
Well, speaking of stabbing, 7 people stabbed in Massachusetts biker brawl involving at least 50 others.
That's a lot of people.
7 people have been hospitalized after a fight involving weapons broke out among at least 50 people in Fall River, Massachusetts over the weekend. That's up where Stephanie's at. The incident occurred Saturday afternoon and involved rival motorcycle clubs. The Fall River Police Department said in a statement shared with People. 7 men were stabbed in the brawl, which involved about 50 people. There were some significant injuries, mostly consisting of lacerations, punctures, blunt force trauma stuff. Things you would expect to see in a brawl, the Fall River Police Captain Barden Castro told the news outlet. So this was just a full-on, old-school, knives, chains, bats, sticks brawl.
Damn.
Between motorcycle
like the
clubs.
Jocks and the Socias are going at it.
It's totally like the Jocks and the Socias.
Or what was it? The Greasers and the Socias.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
I was about to say the Jocks are fighting themselves.
Yeah, well, never mind.
Castro added that the police department is still poring over video of the incident, which occurred at a known clubhouse for one of the groups on Pleasant Street. The irony. It was a large number of people. We are assuming many of the participants came from out of town, he told the station. According to the police release, 3 of the 7 victims, all of who sustained non-life-threatening injuries, were transported to blah, blah, blah Memorial Hospital. And 4 others were taken to the Rhode Island Hospital.
Jeez.
Yeah. Okay. So one witness told the news outlet that the enormous fight involved guys going at each other with weapons. Here we go. Bats, a hammer, things like that, mostly bludgeoning weapons. They were wielded with intent, the onlooker said.
This is like Vikings going berserker.
Oh, my gosh.
Berserker mode.
Yes, they've assigned detectives to figure out exactly what was going on, but I'm sure the code of the biker code's going to keep them from figuring out much, wouldn't you think?
I mean, from what we know, Dylan.
Snitches
which is
get
not
stitches.
much.
That's right.
Exactly. Wow. I mean, we covered that biker case, the motorcycle massacre out of Charlotte only a few episodes ago, and you would think here we are, 40 some odd years later, that they might have
Evolved?
Well, just decreased the level of violence, or that maybe that wasn't such a thing anymore. Maybe that was more of a thing of the past, these violent biker brawls, but here we go.
Yeah, and so I'm sure everyone's heard of the deadly shooting and the mass shooting in Buffalo grocery store. And isn't it amazing?
It's disgusting.
I'm not even going to give this guy credit. I'm not going to say his name.
We'll
Screw
just say
this
the
guy.
piece of shit.
The POS, the shitbird. But isn't it funny? This was always strikes me as strange about these situations. They are able to de-escalate them and take these people into custody, typically, unless they full-on turn the gun on themselves, shoot themselves. Every single time the cops show up, these people are in full tactical gear, helmets. This guy was streaming it live on Twitch, okay, while he murdered people. In full gear, AR-15, multiple big clips, all that mess. And they de-escalate it. They should shoot this piece of shit on sight.
Well, if he was an unarmed person at a traffic stop, they would.
But these unarmed people at traffic stops, the cops, some cops, not only don't de-escalate, they escalate the situation because someone won't put their cigarette out, or they won't comply instantly with whatever order they give them, wrong or right. These cops like lose their damn mind. Next thing you know, there's guns drawn, and people are shot. But they manage to always take these mass shooters into custody. And I think it should be an official law on the books. If we show up to a mass shooting event and you're there in tactical gear with weapons, obviously part of the shooting element, we shoot you on sight. We do not even attempt to take you into custody.
Hot take, Dylan. Hot
Man,
take.
I'm so sick of this shit. These people do not deserve to sit in prison. They don't deserve to be fed by tax dollars. They don't deserve to continue breathing when they do cowardly events. Like, what does it prove when you go somewhere armed to the teeth where no one else is armed and shoot random strangers?
Well, and target elderly people.
Elderly, or target a certain race, or any of that shit, or target women.
Because a lot of these victims were elderly people. Just like that mass shooting that took place in Charleston with that piece of shit
Dylan Roof.
I'm not even going to say his name because
Well,
he's just a big hunk of shit.
He's a big hunk of shit, but I swear to God, what fucked him up was the two ends on his name.
Elderly people.
He sat there and had service with these people. They worshiped, they welcomed him into their church, a very close-knit, tight church community, and sat with him for over an hour, and then he did that. I mean, I don't understand. And yeah, he run, they caught him. He can't, he should have been shot in the back of the head.
And then they took him out and bought him like a fucking Happy Meal or something.
Yeah. I don't get it.
Just like that Colorado theater shooter.
And then they're like,
Fuck these people.
Well, it costs too much to, then they give them some kind of fucked up plea deal. And I just don't get it. I'm sorry. It's bullshit. They should be sentenced to death in front of the courthouse that day, or in front of the establishment where they shoot people.
It's absolutely some bullshit, Dylan.
Oh, my God. There was a guy in the Bronx in the subway.
Everybody gets their day in court unless you're unarmed at a traffic stop.
That's true. Sometimes. Okay.
Okay, so another big true crime breaking news story this week, Dylan. The Brittanee Drexel case. We covered this actually on a Patreon episode last year.
I'm glad you're bringing this up.
Brittanee Drexel was a New York teenager. She was from Rochester, New York, who happened to go to spring break in 2009 at Myrtle Beach and vanished. There was security footage of her entering and exiting a motel, and then nothing after that. They have a suspect charged, finally. I mean, her parents have gone all this time since 2009 with no answers. There have been persons of interest and suspects. We're finally getting a break in the case. And what's wild about this, Dylan, is the day after Drexel vanished from Myrtle Beach, police in a nearby town stopped a car being driven by a man who is now accused of abducting, sexually assaulting, and killing the teenager. The man's name is Raymond Moody. He is 62 years old. And he has now officially been charged with her killing. Drexel's body was found last week, buried in a South Carolina woods. Dental records were used to identify her remains. According to authorities, Moody had been pulled over for speeding on April 26th of 2009 in Surfside, which is a neighboring town of Myrtle Beach. One day after the 17-year-old was last seen, it was unclear whether or not he was cited for that moving violation. Detectives would not identify Moody as a person of interest in the case for another 2 years. At the time, he was living an hour from Myrtle Beach at a motel in Georgetown, South Carolina, when Drexel was last seen. Drexel had traveled down to Myrtle Beach for spring break, and according to authorities, they believe Moody kidnapped Drexel as she walked alone on the Myrtle Beach Strip. Investigators allege that Moody held her against her will, sexually assaulted her before eventually strangling the girl. And then police believe he buried her on April 26th. In addition to the murder, he's also been charged with kidnapping and criminal sexual misconduct. He has been in custody since May 4th on an obstruction charge, and he's being held without bond. I'm really glad that her family is finally getting some closure in this case, because it's one of those cases that's just always really disturbed me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not only that,
Myrtle
God,
Beach is such a popular tourist spot. I know a lot of people, especially in the Appalachian area, Tennessee, North Carolina, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia. That is definitely a spot where a lot of people visit, go on vacation.
it is. Our friend Dustin is heading down there to work off some tensions.
Yes.
I told him, be careful down there.
So, having this young woman disappear like that, I mean, it was, I know, very scary for a lot of people. Myrtle Beach has sort of turned into
Well,
a
and
cesspool of crime,
it has,
seems lately.
and I mentioned that to our buddy, but I think they'll be fine. But I think you do need to bear that in mind nowadays. You need to kind of stay in the wide open touristy places and really don't get off the beaten path because unfortunately there is a rising crime in that area. But when Brittanee Drexel disappeared, it was still rather calm down there and more family oriented, and I think that's why her case was quite disturbing, right?
Moody is a registered sex offender, Dylan. He spent 21 years in prison following a 1983 abduction and rape case in California involving a 9-year-old girl.
Oh, so he had there's one proven other victim, and there's likely been more victims, right?
Yeah, so this guy's just a piece of shit. Further proof, we cannot let these sex offenders and murderers out of prison.
Can't let them out.
They turn around and they do it again.
They do it again every time. I don't know why raping, kidnapping, and all that stuff and molestation, why does it not carry a life sentence, no parole? I mean, seriously. Like time and again, we do these stories where these people are in and out of jail for these serious crimes. They'll get a 20-year sentence and they'll do 6 of it. And then they're out. And they do it again.
And they escalate.
They escalate. And next time they're like, oh, wow, I can't just kidnap and rape that girl or a boy. I've got to kill them next time because the witness pinched me.
Exactly.
That's exactly what they do. And I have one. You mentioned this earlier, and this is disturbing. Iowa teens accused of killing Spanish teacher with baseball bat will be tried as adults, the judge rules.
Oh, yeah. When I saw that headline, I was like, what?
Two Iowa teens accused of murdering their high school Spanish teacher with a baseball bat will be tried as adults after a judge rejected their request to move their cases to juvenile court. Man, screw these guys. You got to look them up and look at their faces. They look dumb as hell. Jefferson County court records confirm Jeremy Goodale, 17, and Willard Miller, 16, both had their requests for reverse waivers denied this week by Judge Sean Showers. Both teens are charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit forcible felony, online court records show. The pair is accused. That's not improper grammar. The pair are accused, right, of using a baseball bat last year to murder Nohema Graber, their Spanish teacher at Fairfield High School. Prosecutors have alleged the two students stalked the teacher and learned her daily routines and then ambushed her on her daily walk. The pair allegedly dragged Graber's body into the woods and then returned to the scene to hide her body. She was reported missing on November 2nd. Her body was found the next day under a tarp in a wheelbarrow and railroad ties. Oh my gosh. Prosecutors have not discussed a motive.
Kids.
In rejecting Miller's request, the judge said there wouldn't be enough time to rehabilitate Miller in juvenile court for a criminal of such magnitude, reports the Associated Press. So, because they're 16 and 17, when they hit 18, they would be released from juvenile custody, right? Isn't that how it works typically? And I'm sorry, if you stalked and planned out and murdered someone by beating them to death with a baseball bat, I don't care if you're 15 or 14 years old. You're a fucking monster. I mean, at a certain level, in some instances, I get it. Okay, it was just, something crazy happened or this kid was disturbed, like in the Slender Man attempted murder case, with those two girls. There was definitely, the one girl definitely, I feel like, had mental issues and, a mental hospitals where she needed to be, and apparently she's actually doing a lot better, as she's gotten older and gotten treatment. But there, at some point, you're just a young psychopath. You just happen to be under 18 years old.
It reminds me of the story out of Idaho where the two boys broke into their friend was house sitting, teenage girl, broke in to this house and murdered her, and then recorded video of themselves afterwards talking about how amazing and awesome it was. And, there was a lot of discussion about their age. I can't think of the name of the victim. It was a pretty famous case. I know a lot of our listeners are probably shouting it at us right now.
Probably.
But it reminds me of that. And it's like sometimes age shouldn't have bearing on the sentencing because these people are fucking pieces of shit. Linwood Briley, the case we just covered this week. 16 years old, shot his elderly neighbor, spent a year in prison.
A year in prison.
Well, a year in juvie.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then was out
to
go be a terror.
Yeah, after just randomly shooting a woman in the neck and murdering her for no apparent reason.
So some of these people don't deserve leniency, right? Because they're just going to go back out and do it again.
Well, I got one more here.
Okay.
Have you heard of this guy? A man murdered 11 black women over 4 years. Did the victim's race allow him to keep killing? He is a black man as well. At just 10 months old, Tyrese Woods joined a small community of people who had survived violent attacks at the hands of serial killers. On the evening of March 8th, 1994, Woods and his mother, Brandy June Henderson, were at home in Charlotte, North Carolina, when a man named Henry Louis Wallace,
the Taco Bell Strangler,
entered their apartment. Wallace violently raped Henderson while she was hot. Okay, never mind. That's the Taco Bell killer, folks. We know all about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just see this and decide to bring it up, huh?
I'm sorry. That's how I work. I work, a free ball. You know what I mean? I just let it fly. No, but I was just like...
Well, apparently this week's episode of 2020 will focus on the Taco Bell Strangler, if you want to check that out.
And I certainly do think, if you know that, if you're familiar with that case... and you're familiar with how even at one point there was multiple victims in the same apartment complex, and all of their connections, what connected all the victims was this one man or this particular fucking Taco Bell there in Charlotte. And I don't know if it was just a case of, poor investigation, or if, race truly played a factor in that. What do you think?
I think we both know the answer to that.
I think race played a factor.
If these were wealthy white women shopping at the, mall in South Charlotte, being attacked and killed, there would have been task forces.
Well, let's say race and class played a factor.
Always does.
Because if it was random murders in the dirty old trailer park where the quote unquote white trash lives, they'd be slow to act as well. Oh my gosh.
Well, we all know money talks, Dylan.
Money talks.
Well, that has been your recap of some true crime news for the week. Thanks for tuning in. We will be dropping a brand new Batshit Crazy this week, so make sure you check that out on Thursday. And then, of course, we'll be back on Sunday with more true crime. Oh,
I can't wait. Heather's working up a great oldie but goodie story. Yeah, it's going to be wonderful.
Surprise, I'm not doing that one now.
You're not doing that now?
I'm going to save that one for some other time.
Okay, well, never mind.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine, Dylan. Yeah, this case this week's just going to be a real piece of shit.
Oh, no, they'll all be great. I was excited to talk about that.
Stupid.
Okay, I can't tell them now. I won't tell them.
Okay.
All right, bye, everyone. Have a great time.